Thanks a lot for joining the show. And in our culture, it's very honor if we can have you to have introduce about who you are and the works that you do. Would you please do that for us, please?
Of course. So my name is Dan Gingiss, and I am a customer experience speaker, author, podcaster, and coach. And I've been doing it on my own with my own business for about 4 years now. I started in 2019, and that was after spending 20 years in mostly big businesses. You've probably heard of McDonald's. Discover Card is a major credit card company in the U.S. Humana is a major healthcare company, all publicly traded companies. And then I worked for a couple of smaller companies as well. And I started as a marketer, leading teams in pretty much every marketing channel, from direct mail to email to social media, and then evolved into customer experience. And even today, I like to say that I live at the intersection of customer experience and marketing, because my belief is that when you do customer experience right, then your customers end up doing the marketing for you, because they end up telling their friends and family and coworkers about doing business with you. And that's ultimately what we all want, is we want our customers to be doing the marketing and the selling for us.
And I think the thanks for sharing that. I think experience is very important, because a good experience we will spread it around, but negative experience also spread even faster and longer, right? And so companies are now fighting for building a good experience that customers will feel the wow, and we will be happy to share, to their friends and to the people in the network. So a lot of that comes from the works that you do for great companies to build that CX experience. Allow me to bring you all the way back to how everything, at the very beginning of your journey. All right. When I was so we all starting our life with some dream about our future, right? And like when I was young, I dream of becoming an astronaut, so that I can wearing the suit and then jump in a different country. Life took me to a very different directions. I work a lot with leaders and HR professional to build a culture for their organization and build a talent solutions, but not relate at all on the on being an astronaut whatsoever. And luckily I have some stickers apart from the NASA, so at least it's the closest one to me. So then, then back to you. When you were young, what did you dream about the future self, and what is that you think that you're gonna contribute to this world?
That's a great question. I've done a lot of interviews. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question. I remember as a kid, I really, really liked my dentist. And so for a while, I wanted to become a dentist,
Uh-huh.
but mostly just because he was so nice. And, nobody really likes going to the dentist, but he made it fun and welcoming. And so as a kid, I wanted to be him. I wanted to grow up and be a dentist.
Ah.
But interestingly, I would say that I never had a very clear picture. And in fact, all the way through university, I had two majors at university. I was a psychology and communications major. And basically, what I tell people, what that means is I still had no idea what I wanted to do. I did not want to become a psychologist, and communications is kind of broad. But what I found after starting my first job is that if you take psychology and add it to communications, what you get is marketing. And I never knew that until I became a marketer. And so what's funny is I worked in marketing for 4 years before ever taking a marketing class. I ended up going back to business school to get my MBA, and that's when I took my first marketing class. And I learned that all the things I had been doing for 4 years had, structures and names and philosophies behind them. But I really learned how to be a marketer just by doing it. And so it's a fascinating question, but other than being a dentist, I don't honestly remember what the dream was, other than I knew I wanted to do something. I think I wanted to go into business. I think that was fairly clear. My father was in business for a lot of years, but I'm not sure that I had that big dream like you did about being an astronaut.
So you went to the you get out of university, work for a few years in the marketing, and then decided to go back to the market to study marketing. You spent more than 2 decades working in the marketing field, and then now working in the intersection between marketing and customer service. So it means that marketing has something inside of you that keeps you for there for long. Tell us, uh, why is that?
Well, what I've realized more recently is
Mm,
that marketing plays a really big role in customer experience
mm,
in two ways. The first is that it's usually the first part of the experience. If you think about how you become aware of a company for the first time,
mm,
it's usually because of marketing or advertising. Either you see a Facebook ad or you see a commercial on TV or you get something in the mail or an email from a company, and that's marketing. So the very first exposure to a brand is often based on marketing. And that, of course, starts to form our feelings about the brand. Was the marketing funny? Was
mm,
it cute? Did we like it? Did we not? Whatever. Did we feel welcomed? The second thing is that I think if you really peel back what marketing does, what it's become is the promiser of the experience. So if you
mm,
look at the best marketing out there, what it's basically doing is telling customers and prospects, this is how it's going to feel when you use our product or our service. This is how it's going to feel when you drive our car. It's going
mm,
to be fast. The wind is going to be blowing, or this is what it's going to feel like when you're on the beach drinking our beer, or whatever it is that we're
mm,
selling. We're basically promising an experience.
mm,
And so then marketing therefore has a outsized role on creating that experience because they're the ones that are promising it. And we can't promise an experience that we can't deliver. So we
mm.
have to be marketers have to be well enough connected to the rest of the business to know that what it is that we're telling people, the business can actually deliver.
Mm. And you say a lot about the traditional marketing is no longer working, and it is a lot of change. And why is that? Why is that change, though, Dan?
Because of what you were saying before of what kinds of experiences people share. And you said, and you're correct, that people share very positive experiences and very negative experiences.
Mm,
What they don't share are ordinary experiences or
mm,
average experiences. Nobody's ever said, let me tell you about the perfectly average restaurant I went to last night.
mm,
Like, that's not an experience we would share, right? Because if it was average, it's not worth talking about.
mm,
And so I think that when we think about typical marketing or traditional marketing,
mm,
the reason I say that is because rather than having yet another email campaign where we hope that 8 or 9 or 10% of the people open up our email and 1 or 2% click on it, or
mm,
yet another social media campaign, I think that we should instead be spending the money on our existing customers and creating experiences for them because they're already in our business. They're already paying
mm.
us money. They're paying our salaries, keeping the lights on. And we're still spending so much more money trying to bring new people in
Ah,
instead of trying to keep the people that we have. And just spending the time keeping the people that we have is far more profitable than having to spend all of the money continually bringing in new people, especially when you have customers walking out the back because they're not happy. So when
mm,
we ignore existing customers, we might be doing a great job of bringing new customers in,
mm.
but our old customers are leaving.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I think that the traditional marketing by itself it's not enough anymore because all it does is bring people in the door, but it doesn't focus on keeping people there.
So since when that thought and that belief been built in your head, Dan? Yeah.
Well, I think the big game changer for customer experience was social media.
Mm,
Because before social media, if you're a customer and you wanted to talk to a brand, you didn't have a lot of choices. I remember when I was a kid, I used to write letters to certain companies. And I remember my favorite yogurt company sent me a letter back and they sent me some coupons and stickers. And I thought it was so cool because I was, 10 years old or what have you. But even, especially if you wanted to compliment a company, if you wanted to say, hey, I really like your brand, there was no mechanism to do that. You didn't call the customer service number to tell them a good thing, right? You called customer service when something was wrong. And there was no mechanism to really have a conversation or a relationship with a brand. Here comes social media, and now customers and brands can have back and forth conversations, and customers really liked that. And they liked having a relationship with brands, and they appreciated when brands were responsive to them and responded to their questions or their complaints or their compliments. And so social media changed the dynamic between customer and brand. And I think what happened is when customers got this very loud voice, and which allowed them to really, say their feelings, positive or negative, by and large, what customers said is, we want a better experience, and we're not going to tolerate bad experiences. And so I think that, combined with the fact that technology has made it so much easier for us to switch brands today than before. It's so much easier to switch banks or dentists or a favorite restaurants or what have you. If you have a bad experience, you pick up and leave and you go somewhere else. That used to be really hard to do. But it's not so hard anymore. You want to change cell phone providers or cable TV providers. It's not a big deal to do that. So the combination of social media and the ability to switch is really what has, to me, have been the two major changes that have made customer experience so much more important. I'd say the last piece, the last catalyst, and the more recent catalyst was the pandemic. Because with the pandemic, what we found was that customers were looking towards companies to help them through difficult times. I don't know exactly how it was in Vietnam, but I can tell you in the United States, we weren't getting consistent news from the government. We weren't getting consistent news from the media. So it made it confusing. And so where do you go? Who do you trust? And what I found here in the US was people started trusting companies. They wanted companies to be that sort of solid foundation. When everything around you feels like it's crazy and out of order, you want something that grounds you. And the companies that we do business were able, the good ones, were able to serve that role. And they were able to say to customers, hey, we have your back. We know times are tough. We know this is a difficult time, but we're here for you. And that was a really big deal. I think that really meant a lot to people. And the companies that did this really well came out of the pandemic even stronger.
Wow. And to me, it's really hard because, like earlier you say, it's a promise that brand needs to deliver. And if we we overpromise, then it can have a counter intuitive to what we wanted to do for our customers. So where's the fine line that organization needs to do between what is it that they want to create and what is it that they can deliver though?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that at the surface, what's nice about customer experience is that it's delivered by employees. Employees are human beings. Your company, by definition, has a unique set of employees, a unique set of human beings. Nobody else has your humans. And so, therefore, your experience should be unique. Even if you're selling the same kind of product as your competitor, the experience should be different because your employees are different. And so, to me, that's where this intersection of customer experience and employee experience becomes really important. And the companies that are hiring the right people and creating a nice experience for them are the ones that are also, the places that make the lists every year of the best places to work are also usually companies that people think deliver great experiences. And that's not a coincidence. We can't expect employees to deliver a great experience if they don't know what one looks like, right? So if we can give them one as employers, then they know how to treat customers. And so I think that's one of the things that the companies that have really started to figure this out have honed in on, is that it starts with the employees. And I look at customer experience and employee experience as sort of a infinity symbol. This one, the 8 that's on its side, right? And the reason is they continue to feed off each other. That when we have happy employees, we create happy customers. When we have happy customers, it makes our employees' jobs easier, so they're happy too. And then around and around we go, right? The reverse is true too. When we have unhappy customers, it becomes when we have unhappy employees, it becomes very apparent to customers, because we've all walked into a store or a restaurant and we've seen the person behind the counter look like they're irritated that we're there, right? Instead of being friendly. Well, that completely changes how we feel about that place, because nobody wants to walk in and feel like they're not welcome or that we're, disturbing an employee of some sort. And so that's why these things continue to build on each other.
Well, thanks for sharing the correlation between the employees experience and the customer experience. As the HR professional, I also believe that, because if we can hire the right person, put them into the right culture, train them to do well, then definitely they will serve our customer well. And if the customer is happy, they come back with good compliments, with good recommendations. And like you say, if you're happy with the dentist, right, you were young because of the experience that he gave to you or she gave to you,
Yeah.
that you're not going to move to another place, you're not going to change your dentist because the experience is good enough for you even share with more people, right?
Yeah.
Led me to the another question, because the customer these days are so diverse, right? It's very, very diverse, totally different than 10 years ago. Plus the technology changes also. So create the experience for them is become a lot harder and harder and harder. And sometimes because of that, organization will be servicing and growing the employees to the same level to satisfy the customer expectation is also challenging. And that loops gonna have the issue because the employee is not equipped yet with the new needs from the customers. So where can we find, like our voice, a customer's voice, so that we can come back home and equip the employees with the train, the tools, and vice versa?
Yeah, this is such an important topic, and I'm glad you asked it, because I actually just launched a brand new keynote presentation with a friend of mine as a co-presenter, where we talk about the importance of diversity and inclusion in customer experience. So as an HR professional, you've probably talked a lot about it in terms of hiring, but one of the arguments that we're making is that it's just as important when you look at your customer base, because your customer base, especially if you're an international company, but even if you have if there's a lot of diversity in your country, like in the United States, for example, pretty much every business that you're in, you're going to have customers who look and sound different from each other and are in, have different backgrounds, have different, are from different countries, are different skin colors, or different religions, or have different sexual orientations, have different political beliefs. And so it's about creating products and services that either appeal to everyone or have the ability to appeal to different groups at the same time. So like a great example of this in the US is a company called Band-Aid, which is the bandages that you put on a cut on your hand. Now, until 2021, Band-Aids only came in one color. They were more or less, I would call it a white skin color. And as a white person, that seemed certainly reasonable to me. It never really occurred to me that somebody who has dark skin might not appeal to them as much. And so 2021, 100 years after this company was created, they finally came out with a sub-brand called R-Tone, and it contains different colored Band-Aids that are meant to match different colored skin. And it's a brilliant idea. I mean, I can't believe it took 100 years, but it's a brilliant idea, because what it says is, people with different skin colors, you're welcome here. We want you as our customers, right? We welcome you. You're important to us. And I think why that's critical, and especially again here in the U.S., everything becomes politicized and unnecessarily the way that I look at this has nothing to do with politics. It just simply is, how do I grow my business and how do I help my clients grow their business? And the answer is, you invite more people to be your customers, no matter what they look like, no matter what their beliefs are. And so when we can take a new look at our products and services and say, does this really deliver for this group of people and this group of people and this group of people? And if we're honest with ourselves, many times the answer is no, but there's an opportunity. And this is also, again, where employee experience and customer experience overlap, because if we have a diverse employee base, then they're going to be more attuned to the kinds of things that a diverse customer base are going to be demanding, right? If the only people that work at the Band-Aid company are white, then they're not thinking about what it's like to be black and use our product because they don't know. And so we have to have a diverse employee base in order to understand our customers better. The second piece, besides the employees, is basically in order to do customer experience well, you have to listen to customers. And so, you have to, even when they're saying things that you don't want to hear. And this is why I always tell companies, do not be afraid of complaints, because people who complain because they care. They want you to fix a problem. If they didn't care, they would just pick up and go to the competition. They would say bye-bye. Like they don't, if they didn't care, they would move on, but they do care. And so I always tell people to welcome complaints, because this is amazing feedback telling you how you can do better. And so I think one of the things that Band-Aid did really well, and they're just one example, I don't mean to only call them out, is they listened and they heard people saying, boy, I wish we had bandages that were different skin colors. And guess what? Now we do.
Wow. And that is the whole notion for our field, also adding the new terms onto the DEI is the belongings, right? So we make the employees belonging, feel they have a sense of belonging here at work. At the same time, for you as the CI expert to build a sense of belonging for the customers who feel that they belong to the brand and they belong to the company and for a common goal. And then that will create a lot more challenges for organization, because I don't want to bring issues up, but I also want to share the opinion in here, because the more we bring the people in that way, and it will be costlier for the organization to invest and then to build the platform, to build the structures and everything. So where can we help leaders to see the importance of that kind of investments into the sustainable future, though?
Yeah, so the first thing is, I believe that customer experience does not have to be a multi-year, multi-million-dollar transformational project, because as soon as we look at it that way, it's overwhelming.
Yep.
And it competes against all the other multi-year, multi-million-dollar projects like digital transformation and all these other things. And so when it's competing against all of that, it doesn't usually win. I look at customer experience as a series of small things. Now, it's a never-ending series. It's a very long series, but it's little things, because the little things add up. And when we fix one little thing, we go to the next one. We fix that one, we go to the next one. And the little things are either improving the experience or creating an experience where one doesn't exist, or it's eliminating the pain points, the things that frustrate customers. Because again, as I said before, it's so easy to switch that if you frustrate me more than once or twice, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. So it's really important that we get rid of those frustrations. And so the way that I suggest that leaders do this is to look at every business problem through the lens of the customer. And that's not to say that the business problem isn't important. It is. So business problem, we need to make more money. Okay, that's an important business problem. But if we don't think about the impact on customers when we're solving that problem, then what we end up with is things like the airlines came out with. Well, hey, let's charge people to check their bags, even though for 50 years they haven't had to pay to check their bags, right? This did not make customers happier with airlines, right? And so that kind of a decision is one that was made solely with the business in mind and not with the customer in mind. I'm a believer that you actually make better decisions when you think about them through the customer lens. And so that's a key thing. And the other thing that I want to advise to people watching or listening here is there's a very simple thing that so many employees and leaders forget to do, which is to become a customer of your own company. Because you're also a consumer. We're all consumers. We know what we like and what we don't like. But when we look at our own company, we're literally viewing it from the other side. It's like a mirror, right? We're viewing it towards the customer. I want you to view it from the customer's point of view. And what you're going to see is something totally different. Let's go back to the dentist. In the United States, most dentists have their private office in the back. And what happens is they have a external door back there. So when they come into work in the morning, they walk in the back door into their office. When I've worked with dentists, I've said, no, don't do that. Walk in the front door, because the front door is where your patients walk in. And so when you walk in the front door, you're going to see what your patients see. You're going to see that there's fingerprints on the door that nobody's cleaned up in 6 months. You're going to see that the magazine rack that you have in your lobby, nobody's updated the magazines in 3 years. You're going to see that the counter, when you step up to the counter, is really messy and has a lot of stuff on it, right? You're never going to see that if you're walking in the back door every day. And so I sort of use that as a little bit of a euphemism for any business, which is that you have to participate in your own business as a customer to really understand what customers see.
Wow, absolutely. If you have, thanks for sharing that. That leads me to another question. Is also a few people brought it up onto our conversation a few months ago regarding to speak up. All right. A lot of employees leave their organization because they think that their voice is not heard. Like one on another way, it's not heard, their concerns are not properly addressed. Similar for the clients, if we ask for, we create so many channels to get too closer to our clients and the customers, but we are not able to solve, their voice, the concern that they have, and they already raised that concern up through the channel that we're creating for them to get closer to us. It's even worse in this situation. So where can we help building a channel that can, at the same time customer can get the voice, but we can also gradually fix that one at a time, like you're saying, the series of small little things to fix it once.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things here. First of all is that much like with customers, we have to spend as much time keeping employees as we do getting new ones, because it's a big job to bring on new employees, right? Anytime you've got a open job and you have to interview candidates and you hope you pick the best one, it's a lot of time, it's money, it's effort. It's so much easier if you could keep an existing employee instead. And in order to do that, we have to create an environment in which people want to come to work and that they want to work with us. And to me, I think that comes down to a lot of things, but training is definitely one of them. And I would say also empowerment. People want to feel that they have the ability to make decisions without having to check everything with their boss. And in particular, I think that the companies that empower their employees for the customer are doing it the best, right? There's a lot of hotels, for example, that tell their front desk staff, you have $100 per customer to solve any problem that they have. Just solve it. Don't worry about asking for permission on the $100. We'll pay for it, but you are empowered to solve it yourself. And what that does is, first of all, it makes that employee stand up a little straighter because they feel good about themselves, that they're empowered. But it also really improves that customer experience, because we've all had an experience where, we call someone and they say, well, I can't do that for you, but let me get you my supervisor. And then I got to talk to a supervisor and explain the same problem again. And maybe that person's empowered and maybe they're not. And I got to talk to their boss. And that's not a good experience for me or for them. So I think it's really important that we empower our employees. In terms of the fixing the little things, um, there's two things that you have to do. We all are familiar with what's called VOC, or voice of the customer, and that's about listening to what customers are saying in every channel. Transcripts of phone calls, transcripts of emails, chat sessions, seeing what people are posting on social media, or even interviews and focus groups, right? Collecting all of that feedback and analyzing it and taking action on it. The other part, though, where I think a lot of companies miss is what I call AOC, which is actions of the customer. And this is, what are the customers actually doing? They might be saying one thing, but what are they doing? How are they using your website? What are the pages that they visit? When I was at the credit card company, we found that most people, when they logged onto the website, the first thing they did was check their last recent transactions. They wanted to make sure that it matched up with what they thought they were spending. Well, at the time, it took 3 clicks to get to the recent transactions. And so my team and I sat down, and first we said, well, what if we could make that 2 clicks? And then we said, what if we could make it 1 click? And then, just because I like to have a little fun sometimes, I said, what if we could make it 0 clicks? And what we ended up doing was creating a Facebook-like feed on the homepage. So as soon as you logged in, you saw your balance and you saw your last 10 transactions. Now, no one had asked us to do this. So if we had watched just Voice of the Customer or listened, we probably wouldn't have come up with this idea. But when we watched the actions of the customer, we saw that this is what was happening. Almost immediately, something amazing happened. We saw hundreds of thousands of customers log in and then log right back out. They didn't click on anything. And the reason for that is they got exactly what they came for. They came to see their transactions. They logged in. There they were happy. They left. And some of why this was such a brilliant solution was an understanding by the credit card company that, as I like to say, nobody wakes up in the morning wanting to visit their credit card website. Right? I mean, nobody says, hey, I know what I want to do today. I want to go to my credit card website. No. And so if we accept that fact, if we accept the fact that when our customers come to our website, you know what they want? To be done. They want it to be fast. They want to just get where they're going and move on with the rest of their day. So by pulling all of the other things away and all of the other distractions and just giving them what they wanted, our satisfaction scores went through the roof. People were so happy and excited because we just gave them what they wanted. And it wasn't hard for us to do, and it wasn't expensive for us to do. It just was different. Today, at least in the US, every credit card company has the transactions on that first page. And we were the first ones to do it back in 2015 or something. But that's why it's so important to look at both voice of the customer and actions of the customer.
Thanks for sharing that, because a lot of times we do a lot of like focus group, listen to the voice of the customers and stuff, but we forgot to really look at the action they take also. So the AOC also becoming another part that can add onto the customer journey and the experience that we can create for them, right? Dan, I have this one. I want to say congratulations to you, because a lot of my friends are executives who get into their retiring age. There's 2 things that they regret. They normally regret. The first thing is they could have started their own company when they were younger, but they didn't do it. The second is they thought they could write a book, but they yet writing it also. You do both. You've been doing both of them. So I want to say congratulations for that, and allow me to bring you to the point a few years ago when you started your own company. All right, you've been very successful at what you do, and then create a lot of achievements through through the works that you do. Even create the trend for the banking industry in terms of the experience that they can create for the customers. Why did you decide to go solo, though?
That's a great question. For me, after more than 2 decades, I didn't feel like I was making the kind of impact that I wanted to. And one of the things with big companies is things move slowly. It's difficult to innovate at a really large company because it takes way too long to do it. When I was in the healthcare industry, and in the United States, our healthcare system's an absolute mess. And I wanted to go into that industry because I thought I could help fix it. And I got there and I realized it moves so slowly that even little incremental changes are going to take so long. I'm going to be dead by the time it's better, right? And so I wanted something where I could move a little bit faster. And also, I really was attracted to being able to work in different industries and to understand different industry problems. And frankly, a lot of them are very similar. So, for example, I did a speech in San Diego, California, a couple weeks ago to a industry conference that was all about the car wash industry. And everybody there owned car washes. I've never met anyone that owned a car wash before, and now I've met 100 people that owned a car wash. And for a day and a half, I got to really immerse myself in the car wash business, and it was fascinating to me. Like, I loved learning about it, and I loved being able to contribute some ideas and things that I've learned over in banking or in healthcare that might actually apply to car washes. So really, at the end of the day, what I can tell people is I have a lot more fun now than I ever did. And I think that it is important as we get older to realize that, we spend so much time at work. We might as well be doing something that we like doing. And I feel very fortunate that now I wake up every day and do something that I love doing. And I'm not sure that, although I was successful in corporate America, I'm not sure that I loved it. I'm not sure that I ever just felt like energized by it. It was a job. I showed up, I did the best I could, I went home. Working for yourself is very different because, you have to be self-motivated. You're doing it for yourself and your family. You're not doing it for your boss or for the CEO. And it's just a different sort of perspective. But to me, it's been really, really fun. And I hope this is my last job, however long it lasts.
Or you can create more job on top of the current job that you are doing, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then for the books, tell us about the journey that you write those two books, though.
Yeah, so, book writing for me was not as difficult of a task simply because I've been a writer for so long. I was in university, I was on the college newspaper. I probably wrote 300 articles for the paper. I've written, I don't know how many hundreds of blogs, first for Forbes and then on my own website. And so writing is just something that I do a lot of anyway. But, the first book actually came to being, you'll appreciate this because there was it was an HR activity at work. And they asked, our boss had us all in a room, and he said, I want you to write down a personal goal. And so I wrote down, I'd like to publish a book. And then he did something that I didn't expect. He said, I want you to take the next 45 minutes and write down all the steps that you need to take to accomplish this goal. And we all looked around at each other and we were like, is he serious? And he was serious. And so for 45 minutes, I started writing an outline of the things that I think I needed to do. And what was amazing is after 45 minutes, I looked at it and I said, I can do this. Like I can make this happen. And I just hadn't visualized it before. But when I looked at all of the steps, it didn't seem quite as overwhelming. And I can't kid anybody. It is a huge project to put out a book. It's a lot of work. But when I saw the steps in front of me, it didn't look like anything that I couldn't do. And so that's really what got me to write the first book. And then the second book was, once I started my own business, what I was talking about had changed a little bit. The first book was all about social media and the companies that were using it for customer service in addition to marketing. The second book then becomes all about the importance of customer experience and how it can become your best marketing. And so I had taken some speeches and some blogs and developed more or less a methodology for creating experiences that people want to talk about, that those ones we were saying before, the good experiences that people want to share. And once I had the methodology in place and a lot of examples, I decided to put another book out there. And in my business, there's sort of a saying that books sell speeches and speeches sell books.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that it adds a lot of credibility to the speaker to say that I'm a published author. And so it helps me to get more speaking engagements, which is how I grow my business.
And then not just the growing the business, but also you grow your level of influencing on the people, because for somehow today I've been able to talk to, besides you, I've been able to talk to two experts of influencing, and then one of them is one of the 20 people on earth being certified by Dr. Robert Cialdini, and on influence framework that he been training the people around. And the works that you do, the books that you wrote, we have to influence the marketers out there, the CX experts out there, to change their practice, to create something better for the employees and the customer that they serve. And that is a huge employee and like influence that you jointly create with them. And I want to say thank you for doing that. I really appreciate.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. It's very kind of you.
I have a few more questions for you, and because you've been in customer experience for long, and the CX also been evolving really, really aggressively these years. Where do you see this gonna be in the next couple of years then?
Well, CX is continuing to evolve, and part of that is that customer expectations are continuing to evolve. And so I think technology will continue to play a really big role, both in creating the experience and in assisting with customer service. Figuring out the right combination of artificial intelligence and human interaction, I don't think we're quite there yet. And I think that's going to be a big piece. And then the more technology evolves, the more we're able to experience brands in a different way. So if you think about now augmented reality, you can see how new carpeting is going to look in your house before you actually put it in. That's really cool. And that's a fascinating way to begin the experience of buying new carpeting. And so I think the more that technology evolves, the more that we're going to see the experience evolve. And then I think the other trends, as we've spoken about, are around the intersection of customer experience and employee experience. And especially as today's employee is very different than the employees of our parents' generation. And so meeting the needs of today's employee is going to be really important. And then I think finally it's the pandemic, as I mentioned, really changed how customers and brands interact and how customers perceive companies that they do business with. And so this idea of being there for me when I need you, when things are bad, is going to be really important. The next global crisis that we have, whatever it is, there's not going to be the same excuse that we had for COVID, right? Lots of companies, they didn't have business continuity plans. They didn't have a plan for what to do if everything shut down. Should this ever happen again, there's no excuse anymore. You have to have a plan. And so I think that's going to be really important going forward as well.
So if that's the case, if somebody wanted to be good at customer experience, and do the job well, what kind of skills do you think that they need to learn now or unlearn from now so that they can, successfully do the job that needing them to do?
It's funny because in some ways, customer experience is what we might call a soft skill, in the sense that, as far as I know, there's no universities that have a major in customer experience. It's not like chemistry or something like that. But on the other hand, it's a hard skill because customer experience has a direct line to profitability. It helps save cost and it helps increase revenue. So it is in that sense. of critical importance. I actually think that one of the best things you can do is simply to be more observant. And so what I mean by that is, as I mentioned, we're all customers. Mm-hmm. We all go to restaurants, we all shop at stores, we all shop online, we all travel. Mm. Everywhere you go, pay attention to what's around you. Pay attention to little things like signs on the wall, or whether a place you go to. I went to a restaurant once, and we sat in a booth, and a friend of mine said, "So tell me, what is this customer experience stuff all about?" And I said, "Well, let me give you an example. Did you notice when we sat down in this booth that the wall next to us was dirty?" And his head like boom, like this. And he's like, "No." I said, "That's the first thing I noticed. I noticed that before we sat down. Because I'm paying attention. I'm watching. I'm observing." And the more you observe, the more you see. And the more you see, the more you know what's good and what needs fixing. And it's that same example of the dentist walking in the front door and observing what his customers see, what his patients see. I think that is the single biggest thing. And the best news is you don't have to go to school for that. You don't have to go educate yourself on how to be more observant. You just have to open up your eyes and pay more attention.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Dan. I have two last questions for you. The first question is coming from our ends. My wife and I has been in the quest looking for answer to help people to improve their ability to think. Like you said, observing is the way that you can help. They can help seeing improvements. We also believe that our ability to think these days are not increasing but diminishing. All right. So every chance that we speak to somebody that do a lot, their job involve a lot of thinking, deep thinking, big thinking, things like that, we will ask the question about to learn about their secrets. Okay, so Dan, how do you help yourself to expand the ability to think?
Wow, amazing question. Another one I have never been asked before. So we've talked a lot today about the fact that I'm a content creator. I do blogs, I have a podcast, I wrote some books. I'm also a content curator, which means that I am constantly looking for other people's content that I can share with my following because I've learned something from it. So I put out a newsletter every week. It's at cxnewsletter.com if you want to sign up. And it always contains an article from me and articles from other people or videos from other people. And so the curation process is my attempt at helping people, well, first of all, helping myself learn, because I'm always learning. I don't know everything. I don't know close to everything. I know what I've experienced, and I know what I've done in the corporate world, and I can lean on those experiences. But there's lots of people that I read everything they say and everything that they write. And so I believe in this dynamic of being a creator, so you push things out to the world, and being a curator, which is you help other people see the amazing content that's already out there. Wow. And I think that to me is what gets me thinking. That, and I would say, constantly exploring new industries. I'm a big believer that if you work for a bank, the last place you should look for inspiration is another bank. You should be looking at Disney World and Starbucks and brands that people love because they probably don't love their bank. But you can learn something from those brands that they love, and you can apply them back at your bank. So that's the other thing and that's why I got so excited about the car wash industry, right? Is that I'm always curious to learn about new businesses, and maybe I can take something out from that business and use it in a speech or in a book or in a consulting engagement somewhere else, because now I know something about that business that I never knew before. I'll leave you with this. One thing I used to teach all the employees that worked for me is I believe that you should know enough to be dangerous about a lot of things. And so when I worked at Discover, its main product was a credit card, and I worked in the credit card area. But we also had student loans and home loans and personal loans, and we had a bank, and there were other products that we offered. And I would tell my team, I don't expect you to be an expert in all those products. It's hard enough to be an expert in credit cards, but I expect you to know enough to be dangerous. And what that means is that I want to make sure I'm translating this correctly. What that means is if you're at a cocktail party with some friends
Mm.
and somebody says, "Oh, you work at Discover. I hear you have student loans. I have a kid that's about to go to university."
Mm.
You can't answer that question by saying, "Well, I don't know," because that's a bad reflection on you and on the company. You have to at least be able to talk for 2 minutes to say, "Yes, we do have student loans. Here's what I know about them.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to introduce you to Sally, who works in student loans, and she can answer all your questions." Now you've just provided an unbelievable amount of value. It's a very positive reflection on you and on the company. And all you know is this much about student loans, right? You don't know everything. You just know enough. And I think that mentality is what helps people think better, because as things come up, you may not understand accounting, but you should know a little bit about accounting. Yep. Because if it comes up, you want to be able to participate in the conversation.
You make me feel bad about myself, because when I first came back to Vietnam in 2012, I was leading the business for Deco. We established the business here, and so I was equipped with the HR knowledge, but it's not strong enough for the foundation. So along the way we figured out, and we try to learn and practice at the same time, right? So I went out and I met a very, like a senior HR person working for a very large bank in Vietnam. And so she asked me a lot of questions that I did not know. All right. And so I tried to use the knowledge from the book, the knowledge that I read on the newspaper, and plus, like street smart to try to put the information in. And I tell you this, the moment I left the room, so my BD person told me, "Hey, 80% of the advice you gave was wrong." So know enough to be dangerous. So I didn't know enough, and then try to be dangerous also. And then we went back to the office, and I sat down with the consultant and said, "Okay, so these were the questions. These were the answer that I gave was the thing that I misunderstand." And then that's a good learning experience for me and the team. But also is I came back to her and I say, "Hey, I gave you the answer based on what I think that I know best, and based on the experience that I had in the States and in the other countries that I've been working for. But in Vietnam, it didn't work. And here's the answer. I'm sorry to give you, like the wrong information." And we had a good laugh back then. We have a good friend since then also. She's been a very best friend of mine ever since. So
That's great. That's great. Hey, I'm gonna make you feel better here, Ha. When I was coming out of business school in the early 2000s, I interviewed with Frito-Lay, which is a snacks company that is owned by Pepsi. So they make chips and stuff, and it's owned by Pepsi. That's really important. And one of the questions that they asked me in the interview was, "Name a brand that you're particularly loyal to." And before I could stop the words from coming out of my mouth, I said Diet Coke, which of course is Coca-Cola and their major competitor, right? And as soon as I said it, I was like, "Oh no!" And I kind of just had to stay there, right? Because I answered the question, and of course I did not get that job. And so that's maybe another example, but I have embarrassed myself in an interview too, and it happens. It's okay. We grow from it, and we can and the fact that we can laugh at it is very healthy.
Thanks for sharing that. You made me feel less. I would love to talk to you a lot more. I will go to the last question for today, because I know that there are other things that you need to do and other people that you also need to, have your influence and stuff. So my last question for you is about a little bit about the future. So we knew your past, we know the works that you do now, and then we want to head into the future a little bit. Is there anything Dan is working on that you are exciting and you want to share with me and the audience so that we can celebrate with you in advance?
Well, thank you. And we touched on it a little bit before. I just launched a brand new speech about diversity and inclusion and customer experience. It's with a friend and a business partner of mine who I've known for a while. She is, by the way, a Black woman, and so we are. One of the things that we share in the speech is that when you look at us, we don't look anything alike.
Mm.
She's black, I'm white. She's a woman, I'm a man. She has beautiful hair that's lots of color. I have no hair. I mean, we look like we have nothing in common. But once we got to know each other, we actually learned that we have a lot in common. And it's so important for us to do this with everybody that we meet, right? That we can be more open-minded and understanding, and that's going to make us better at our jobs. So I'm very excited. We've only delivered this keynote now twice, but I think that this is something we're going to hopefully be spreading to lots of companies. I hope it leads to another book. That's my hope, is that my next book is about this topic. And I think it's really, really important, and it's a key part of the future of where customer experience is going.
Well, and that will happen. All right, there will be more speaking engagements for you and her to share about the ideas, because that is important. And along the way, if we cannot neglect the diversity part and inclusion part for the customer within the experience journey. So definitely that will happen. And make it a book, absolutely. Make more books for the people to read about it, learn from you, and then have your influence on that, because that's how you have to build a better world your way. So then, thanks a lot for doing all of that. I thank you for joining my show, and I thank you for sharing a lot of great insights tonight. A lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and I really enjoyed it, my friend. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Ha. I enjoyed it as well, and you asked some really, really good and difficult questions, but great questions that I haven't been asked before. So great job on that. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much. I hope that one day we will be seeing you in Vietnam, all right? Let's work
I
on
look
that.
forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. And bye for now, Dan.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.